After 2 months without a missile test, North Korea has launched its highest ever intercontinental ballistic missile, which experts say puts the U.S. well within range. It claims this is a new missile, known as a Hwasong-15. What can we tell about this missile from the latest test? The North says this intercontinental ballistic missile ICBM is its most powerful yet and completes the country's rocket weaponry system development set. It claimed the rocket is tipped with a super-large heavy warhead which is capable of hitting the whole of mainland U.S. The rocket reached the highest altitude of any rocket tested by the North so far. Last July North Korea tested the Hwasong-14 missile that demonstrated an altitude of 3,000 kilometers 1,865 miles, but there were still many voices doubting how far it would go with a warhead fitted onto it. This test showed serious advances, although experts say more test details need to emerge for more certainty. North Korea claims the rocket reached an altitude of 4,475 kilometers 2,800 miles, which would mean its range at a standard trajectory, as opposed to one that was fired as purposely high, would be 13,000 kilometers. This would be more than able to cover continental United States, dependent on the weight of the mock warhead likely to have been placed on it, Vipin Rang, associate professor of political science at MIT, told the BBC. There were the doubters on the range of Pyongyang's first 2 tests, and so they've improved it. They have extended the range now out to a point that it is hard to credibly argue that North Korea couldn't have the U.S. eastern seaboard within its range, he adds. The only caveat would be the weight of the warhead. David Wright at the Union of Concerned Scientists points out in his blog that it is likely to have carried a very light mock warhead, and that means it would be incapable of carrying a nuclear warhead to this long distance, since such a warhead would be much heavier. But Mr. Ring says the weight shouldn't attenuate range too much. The missile should be able to handle a heavy warhead, being so heavy itself, adding that it shows the missile program is improving. Testing is working, and whatever the shortcomings of the earlier test, they are finding ways to fix them. To get this extended range in such a short time is very impressive. They have gone from 9,500 kilometers to a 13,000 kilometers range, a technical feat. The test was unusual in that it took place when the region was in darkness, but there are clear advantages to Pyongyang being able to master nighttime launches. It tests your unit's ability to fire a missile under cover of darkness, and there is a concealment and readiness component to this, Mr. Ring points out. If you are worried about the U.S. trying to target missiles, it gives you a slight advantage. It is just that bit easier to hide and move things at night. So a missile would be that little bit less vulnerable to U.S. attack. Then there's the fact that missiles are harder to intercept at night. At night there are certain phases of a warhead's flight that doesn't have the illumination of the sun, so it's harder to pick up, he adds. It is certainly not impossible to intercept, but a launch under covers of darkness marginally improves their ability to evade missile defenses. It has long been North Korea's stated ambition to complete its nuclear arsenal of weapons and be able to have the continental United States within range. This launches the North saying to the world that it believes it has achieved both those goals, Mr. Ring says. There are some who doubt whether North Korea can miniaturize a warhead. And the country has yet to prove it has the re-entry technology needed to bring a warhead back through the Earth's atmosphere. But Mr. Ring warns that with every dot comes the determination to prove it wrong. It worries me that we are daring Kim Jong-un to conduct what is known as the Jutch-Bird test, which is an atmospheric nuclear test, a highly risky test. Those that still think a preventative war is an option, have to make the argument that North Korea doesn't have the ability to hit US with a warhead.